Ladies and gentlemen, good evening. I know I have a difficult spot. You are tired and I am before drinks. So, let me start my conversation with no slides. So, I'm going to talk about a theme that is very close to my heart, is put wings on people to create new leaders. But as we talk about people, let me start talking one person, me, so you get to know me a little bit better. So, as a person, who I am, what is important to me? Roots, my family, I'm Italian. I've been out of Italy since '84, but every time I have the opportunity, I go back to Turin, where I have my sister and my oldest friends. But then as well, my family. So I have a daughter who lives in California, and every time somebody asks me, where is home? I say, where she is. And then another kind of home, which is Shanghai. And why Shanghai? Because I've been moving in my professional career every 2-3 years, and Shanghai was the only place where I stayed more than 5. So I had the little roots there. A hobby, I love playing golf. I'm a very average player, but I love the game. And of course, I'm Italian. So last but not least, I have to support a soccer team. And my soccer team is Torino. Now, who am I as a business person? I am a chemical engineer by background. Nobody's perfect. And then I got later an MBA at INSEAD. The major companies I worked for is General Electric for 10 years, Whirlpool for 15, and right now I'm working in Franke. I'm sorry I forgot here, because I think that is a well-known company in Brazil that gave me the opportunity to be in Brazil beyond Whirlpool. That is Rogia, so a producer of engineering plastics. And here a little map of where I started in Italy, then I went to US, then I went back to Europe, living in different countries, then China, and finally in Switzerland. So just a couple of words very quickly on what is the Franke. Franke is a part of the Artemis group that is a leading provider of solution in the kitchen space, let's say professional and residential. It is a company that has a long tradition, was founded in 1911. 8,000 people, 62 countries, 2.5 billion. We have 3 divisions. I'm leading the residential division, that is the Home Solution. And then we have a professional division on food services that is serving the Burger King, the McDonald's, so is equipping their kitchen. And then the coffee system division that is providing professional coffee machine. You can find them in airport lounges, for example, in resorts and different places. We are competing, my division with another division to be number 1 in our group. Last year we were number 2. But as you can see, the majority of the turnover is generated with the first 2 divisions. Just to say that we are a global company. As you can see, 50% of the turnover is in Europe, and the rest in the rest of the world. Couple of words on Home Solution. I'll cover this slide anyway later. As we said, 1 billion. We are present in 31 countries. And Brazil is one of the countries, but it's not Brazil. For us, home here is Joinville since always, so we are very thankful to the government and the infrastructure of Santa Catarina that always supported us in good and bad times. So thank you as well for having me here. We are as well, we are producer of hoods, and we are producing hoods not only for ourselves, but for many other brands. Swiss company, Swiss heritage, you know what Swiss stands for, is precision, is quality, is reliability. 4,000 employees, again, as I said, dispersed all across the world. What we do, basically, is what you see here. We do everything for the kitchen, but the wooden part, not the furniture. And just to show what are the products, you can see here, our core is the sinks and taps and the hoods, and then we complete the full suite with appliances. I'm going to share with you a kind of confidential slide, because this one is, we try to summarize on one page what is our strategy. And this has been our strategy since, let's say, 5 years ago. We have been keeping no pictures. Okay, I think that is as well on our annual report. I'm kidding. But it's our vision is to have at least one Franke product in every home across the world. We are serving now a few hundred thousand homes across the world. But what I wanted to highlight, that this brings me then to our conversation today, is that if you look at what we call success pillar, the number one is organization. Organization means people, but you can see as well that the foundation really of the whole strategy are people who share the same values. What leaders can, I should have said must do for people. This is terrible. I hate myself in video, and they insisted on putting this video, so I'm gonna not watch. You tell me when it's finished. The values of our company, I think that speak to everybody. But the values are an intrinsic part of what people are. I'm convinced as well that competencies and the specific skills can be taught and learned. It is much more difficult for values, and that's why I always look at how people behave, how well they can play in team, how well they take accountability for a difficult situation. And this is what is most important to me, having people who can extract the best of the people around them, who can contribute for the cause, who are not in it for themselves, but for their team, for the company, and for the well-being of all people, constituencies, stakeholders around us. Thank God. So I moved across industry and businesses and companies, and while I learned the specificity, there was something that I always took with me across, which is to really lead a business and bring it to operate to another dimension. People is the very first element. I did look at, and what I recommend that every leader should be doing. And why is that? If you don't have the right people, and the right people mean people who share the same vision, the same passion, the same values, you're not going to go anywhere. When you have the right people, and again, as I said as well in the video, when I interview people for a position in my organization, I very rarely check technical skills, because first of all, there are other people doing that for me. But as I said, skills can be learned. What you cannot learn is what you are, what makes you tick, what motivates you, what makes you get out of bed. And that's what I check in the interview. I always ask a question where the only answer somebody can honestly give me is I don't know. I want to know if people have the intellectual honesty and the courage, the confidence to tell me I don't know. Because it's something that is going to be very important later on, to know if you can trust those people when they tell you that they know things. So people is first. Products or services, whatever the company does, is close second. Because if you don't have product or services that people are proud of selling, distributing, or whatever, those people will go somewhere else. When the first two things are in place, you can choose who are your partners in the marketplace. Depending on the market, can be distributors, can be retailers, etc. That is a detail. But again, for having a really true relationship with your business partner, your organization needs to be impeccable, needs to be reliable, needs to be stable. Otherwise, your partners will tell you, yes, you have a great product, but I'm tired to speak to a different person every 6 months, to teach them what we are about, to teach them the job. So that's why stability of a performing organization is key. At that point, then, when you have all three things aligned, you are ready to spend money on the brand, to make the brand known, because you know that your product will be well represented everywhere across the chain. There are many things that contribute to a winning team. But I think that there are some traits that, by the way, are the same traits of character that we look in our friends. And I'm wondering why we should look for certain things when we talk about friends, and other things when you talk about the people you work the all day with. So is humbleness, knowing that and be willing to learn, to challenge yourself, to think differently from the past. Curiosity. Being curious is what makes you better, makes you grow, makes you brings you outside your zone of comfort. And leadership by example, showing this is more important for leaders, but as well for all for everybody in the organization, being it a manager or individual contributor, right? Showing that you own the problem, you own the solution, you are there, ready to get your hand dirty, to roll up your sleeves. So if I gotta really boil it down to three, these one are the three I would be choosing. And as I was saying, this one is across all level of leadership. Certainly leading by example is even more important for us as leader. We need to walk the talk and being a positive example to our colleagues. I think that I can. I'll bring it here. One thing that is very important, or at least it was very important to me. I've been very fortunate in my career because I had great leaders. Great leaders who believed in me beyond what I already demonstrated, right? Because it's easy to offer to somebody a job when he or she did already the same job for 10 years. It's more difficult to take some risk and say, I believe that this person can do this, even though he or she never did it. And I had this luck in my career. And I wanted to share two personal experiences that are really had the shape who I am today as a leader. And I think that those early experience is what we as leader, we need to give it to our younger generation of employee, because we will form the next generation of leadership. We go back, okay, you do the math, so more or less you know how old I am. We go back 40 years. So I was just graduated, a chemical engineer. I don't know how it is in Brazil. I can tell you that in Italy there were very few women engineers. And even less engineers in the manufacturing operation space. And this was my first employment. It was in the R&D center of Montedison, that it was a very important company at the time when the chemical Italian industry was very strong. So I was very happy already to be in their corporate research center, and they decided to give me, just graduated, responsibility for pilot plants. Pilot plants is what stands between a lab and production, okay? So you have a team of blue collars working with you. I gotta tell you, it was a challenging experience, right? Because I was young, nice looking, and I was coming to the plant, and my team was whistling after me, right? So I was coming back home in the evening and say, I'm not gonna make it, I'm not gonna make it. And that for me was a big lesson. One is because, you know, I had my boss trusting me and say, you will figure it out. But the second lesson I learned that nobody resists to the power of example. I tell you a little story. The little story was when you gotta set up a certain condition to be able to operate these pilots plants. At times you cannot do it in 8 hours, right? So first day we got to the right condition after 6 hours. So the team leader of the blue collar said, okay, we know how to do it, we start again tomorrow. The following day was again, we reached the condition after 4 hours. And they said, okay, no, we do it, start again tomorrow. The third day, after the end of the shift, they said, okay, we'll start tomorrow. I said, okay, let me do a few more things, leave it on. And I stayed there the whole night to complete the cycle. The following day, the team came. They were surprised. They brought me breakfast on the plant, and they sent me home to rest, and they continued the work, which to me proved that nobody resists the power of example. But again, in that company, you know, I was given the second very important experience in my career. At that time, my heart was Star and Stripes. I wanted to go to US. So one day my boss comes to my office and said, Barbara, your dream is coming true. We just have concluded a joint venture. We are the financial partner. The American are the know-how partner, and we need our technical expert there. So you. And I said, this is great. When I leave, 2 weeks. Then I shared with my boss, you know, that my English was very limited. And my boss looks at me like I was lunatic and says, okay, so you are telling me that you managed to become an engineer and you cannot learn English? So I left with my broken English after 2 weeks, but then it really happened. You know, after 1 year I could take the test to get into the MBA school and scoring at the top percentile. And this is the power that we as leaders have, making our people believe in themselves beyond what they themselves at time believe, and giving them opportunities where of course they were not tested. But this is what we need to do, to give opportunity to grow, to take people out of their comfort zone. So, as I had this fortune at the beginning of my career, I really feel compelled to do the same in my organization. I say I take risk on talent, but I gotta tell you, I've never been disappointed. Taking risk means only seeing the sparkle in somebody's eyes, listening to what he or she wants to do, and making sure that she gets that opportunity. And you, I'll never be disappointed. You'll never be disappointed. You'll never be disappointed if you have those people who really want to put themselves online and doing things that they never did. So my final advice to young and talented professionals, but as well to all ourselves as a leader of different organizations, right? I think that deep down, everybody knows what he truly wants to do. And what I recommend is say, you gotta listen to your heart more than to your head. Times the head brings you to be conformist, right? To do what you think that is socially acceptable or socially valued. I'll share then another personal story with you to explain at that point. So it's to make sure that you create your own unique space and that you live the mission you were born for with courage, with confidence. I'll tell you a story that explains a little bit what I mean. And is a personal story because my daughter is involved. When she was a teenager, she was determined that she was going to be a lawyer. My sister is a lawyer, so she never had any passion for mathematics, so engineering was out of the question. But then, you know, when I was looking at her in her free time, she was taking pictures, she was writing, she was reading, and then one day I asked her, okay, explain me why you want to become a lawyer. And she thought for a minute and said, okay, let me come back to you. After a few days, she came back to me and tells me, I had an epiphany, okay? I want to become a writer. And so it was. She started then majoring in English literature. She's going to start now a PhD in American literature. She's a ghostwriter. She's a YouTuber. She does lots of things in what she wanted. She said that she wanted to do. And I think that probably she would have been a good lawyer because still you got to exercise, speaking and writing and so on. But I think that putting her heart in sync with her passion was very important. And as I see many ladies, if I may, I mentor lots of ladies. I want to share another thing that is my advice to young ladies, but my advice as well to the leaders in this room, because it's the advice I would have liked to have at the time. Very often when ladies go in maternity leave, they are very anxious, right? And say, okay, what is going to happen when I have a career? What is going to happen? They're going to give away my job. I'm going to pass on that promotion and so on. So it's true there were other times, right? We talk almost 30 years ago. I had that preoccupation, and I did probably the only thing I truly regret in my life. Basically, I stayed outside of the job, net, so before and after 11 days. And this is something I truly regret, because those, are moments that are unique in a life of a woman. They need to be respected. So what I tell to my young mentees, I say, look, if you work in the right organization, there is always a time for putting first you, right? Not only your family, but really you yourself, what you need. and there is a time for career. There is always a train that is going to come, and you will take the next train, and you need to be confident that this is the right thing for you to do. Don't be anxious. Just follow again your heart. And this is what I wanted to share with you. I think that I convinced you that people is what it matters. I mean, you know it, right? But I gave you as well example of how to put it in practice, and then I would be welcoming any question from your side, either now, afterwards, at dinner. Thank you so much for your attention so late in the night. Thank you. I'll sit.
Muito obrigada, Bárbara. A gente vai ter agora o nosso momento de perguntas e respostas. Eu vou convidar para que venha ao palco para fazer a mediação da nossa sessão de perguntas, Fábio Machado, que é diretor da Franke Home Solutions.
So you're not going to say, right, that all what I said is not at all what happens, no, right?
I will not. So first of all, Barbara, I would like to thank you to come to Brazil, to accept the invitation, to talk to this audience. So it's a pleasure to have you. Thank you very much. So we have few questions here. Let me start with someone.
You cannot read the glasses.
There is an important theme that we were discussing in the backstage. After the pandemic, do you believe that there is a change in the leadership, in the relations with the mental health? How the leadership nowadays
reacts.
Before and after pandemic.
But certainly, there were things that we all learned, right, during the pandemic. So that was uncharted, the territory for everybody. And there are practices that we introduced during the pandemics that are becoming trends that are going to stay. Right, like the remote working. People have now the opportunity to live in a place that they like more without having to commute hours to come to the office, at least on everyday basis. So I think that there is a recognition of leadership that we need to change our operating schemes to deviate from the beaten path. But in general, beyond the pandemics that clearly changed lots of things, there were lots of people who reconsidered their priorities. They decided to make completely different choices. They decided, I don't want to work in a company, I want to work for myself, I want to be a freelancer, I want to have more time. So it was a time of reflection, right, for lots of people discovering or rediscovering what was important to them. But beyond pandemics, in reality, the mental health issue has been, how can I say, a concern, at least for me personally, since many years, right? Because in good and bad, technology makes us reachable 24 hours per day, 7 days per week, right? So if you don't have a good support system, which means as well coaching at work, if you don't have leaders who really make the effort not to write you on weekends, not to write you at night, to make sure that you use your holidays, you can really become just a work machine. And yes, there are a few people who are workaholics. I am one of those, but still, you know, you need to understand when you need to create the space for yourself. And we, as leader, we have more tools or, you know, opportunity as well to exchange with colleagues and reflect on those topics. What we need to do as leader is putting in place systems in our companies that prevent the burning. As I said, some are very simple. It's just making sure to have leaders who are generous, and being generous means, first of all, respecting the other people. The second that we introduce in our company, it is a very widespread coaching program. Okay, everybody can access to a coach. We support this initiative, and then at personal level, I always been very sensitive to. How can I say? Is not burnout, because we talk about young people, but about you know, building resilience, right, in people in general, in particular in the among the youngest, right, because we know that social medias can be a very dangerous tool in the hands of youngsters who didn't develop yet, you know, their own sense of identity. So there are quite a lot of things that we as leader we can do, starting from the simplest one. Respect the holidays of your colleagues, respect their free times, don't write before 7 a.m. or after 6 p.m.
Good. Thanks.
I do that, right?
Yes.
Okay.
I'm proof that you do that. I'm proof. There is a good one here. Is it possible to middle management lead by example, as you have said to us, if the top management is not doing the same?
Hey, that okay. I gotta say that either you hope that the senior management gets fired, or otherwise, it happened to me once, and you know, you gotta realize as well that when you are in an intermediate position, there is this much, right, that you can change. You can change the environment in your team. You can show that behaving differently, results are different, right? Performance is different, the ambience is different, the people are happier. But typically when you have how can I say, a toxic leader at the top, he or she will be typically very arrogant, so she will not learn from that example, will dismiss that example. And so, you know, at the end, as much as I take it seriously work, a job is a job. And if I'm not appreciated in a company, there is another company where you will be appreciated. So don't get sick. Do what you can, but then take the destiny on your own hands.
Thanks. Good. As we talk, or you talk about young people, how should we be prepared to accept this new generation that, according to the question here, it seems not to be too compromised with the results?
That it doesn't look like being comfortable. No, say that again. It's really.
How should we be right prepared to deal with the new generation that in some cases they are not so.
Yeah, that is. I hate doing generalization. Okay, but people of my generation and me as well, when I join a company, my reflex is, what can I do for this company? What I can do for this company? It's true that if I generalize, and of course is wrong, but today the majority of the candidates of the new generation, they don't come with that attitude. They come with the attitude of, what can you company do for me? Yes. Okay? And we need to cope with that. First of all, as I said, it's not the case for everybody. But we need to cope with this, and you know, hiring these people and trying to show that being selfish, because at the end of the day, when you ask what the company can do for me, it means that you think only of yourself. If you put them in an environment where there is a team spirit, where there are people who back each other up, who are really supporting each other, who are taking responsibility, maybe we show them that there is a different way to contribute, and having as well a higher satisfaction that you contribute to something not only for you, but for an environment, to sustain a cause, to sustain the community, different things. But it's true, it's a challenge. Or maybe I just got to retire and having somebody who is newer hiring the new generation.
Good. Thanks. Do we have time to more questions? Yes? No? Seems yes. So, which points are the most relevant in your opinion and needed in our leaders' daily agenda? What are the main points or the most important points that we should have in our daily agenda?
Why you don't respond? Because you know from where we start every time our staff meeting or conversation.
Yes. No, one of the things is people, for sure.
Every time, I mean, we need to, well, certainly is a little bit self-serving, right? But having the right people in the right position, it means that you as a leader, you have only one job to do. If the people under you don't function, or you don't trust them, which is another problem, right? As a leader, you need to trust and empower. At the end of the day, you end up doing the job of 4 or 5 people, right? So it's important that, you know, we really are, how can I say, very choosy in looking for the right people, and trusting them to do the job, as well putting wings on them, right? Say, you can do it, you can expand your horizon. But all starts as well from showing really daily a genuine interest on people, on understanding what are their aspirations, where they are in their personal life, do they have issues, do they have a newborn, they need more time to sleep, they need more flexible. I mean, that buys you a lot of credit with your organization if you show that you really care for them at personal level. And this one doesn't mean you can say, but when you have a 4,000 people operation, how can you do it? I don't say that I know all the 4,000 people of the operation, but Fabio can tell you that every time I go in an operation, I go down, I just don't meet with Fabio or his direct report. I try to really meet as many people as we can. We have as well town halls, right, where we put together the whole organization, we share results so that people know what we are doing, and people have the opportunity to ask a question and to challenge us.
Good, thanks. I will make one more here, again, with the theme is young professionals. So what is your recommendation for young professionals that for their learning, or what they can do to keep learning. What should be your recommendations in this sense?
It's difficult question. Certainly,
Like
well, you gotta have a passion, right, for learning. Because if you have a passion for learning, you will create the opportunity. One way to learn is to ask for a position in which you need to learn because you never did that before. The order is having, really choosing when you can, and at times you have this opportunity, right, to go and work in different parts of the organization. Work for leaders that inspire you. And don't hesitate as well. I mean, if you feel that you need to go back to school, and then you start thinking, yes, but I have a job, how I can do it, I give up this income and I go and spend money. First of all, now there are lots of courses that are online or over the weekend. Of course, it's your time. But if you are a well-appreciated person in your organization, I'm sure that your company, if you have brought value, if you have shown that you are in there for the team, I'm sure that the company can support you either partially, financially for your studies, or even more, giving you time, right, to make sure that you don't burn out because you study at night and weekends and then you work during the day. So don't hesitate to ask, because anyway, the worst thing that can happen is that they say no. But if you don't ask, you will never give your company the opportunity to tell you yes. And the majority of the time you will be surprised.
Good. Barbara, I would like to thank you one more time.
No, thank you.
It's a pleasure to have you here in Joinville, in Brazil. Thank you. Thank you very much.
Pleasure was mine. Thank you.